Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a deep dive champion guide for Mother Cybele, where we go over the kit analysis, base stats, build, masteries, booking process, and show some battle examples so you know how her kit functions. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so the reason for this guide is because I don't know when you're watching this, it could be down the road in the future, but Mother Cybele in August of 2021 was launched as a fusion event, so I am on the test server to get some content out as soon as possible, and that is kind of the kickstart reason for the guide on Mother Cybele. And the reason I say it like that is because if you do some searching, you'll find some stuff like this on Wikipedia where references to some mythology stuff about the Great Mother, and then they show it pronounced Cybele here on Wikipedia. So I had no idea how to say it at first. When I saw when the champion announced, I was like, Mother Cybele, Mother what? But it sounds like it's Mother Cybele. And then, as always, for my champion guides, down below in the pinned comment and that good stuff, you can find the infographic right here with some of the basic information about the champion. Those masteries are mostly useful for her support build if you don't use her in the clan boss. If you're using her in the clan boss, you'd probably want some different masteries and to get War Master and that type of stuff on her. But just for general utility support, those masteries should be mostly okay for her. But you're going to want to pay attention to that when you are building her. But let's go over some analysis here on the base stats and the kit. For the stats, now you don't need attack on her. Her damage is going to scale with HP. And that being said, she doesn't do a whole lot of damage anyway, so you don't have to really worry about damage on her. She's mostly a utility support, so you don't need any attack. The attack can be 0. It's kind of a wasted stat on her, so you'll want to avoid that, like you see up on the far top right of the infographic. That's why I have attack and crit in red, because you don't really need to worry about them at all when you're building her. Base defense is pretty good, 1343. Base HP is all right at 19k. Base speed is amazing. That's like the best you see in the game. 115, 116 is about the highest it gets in raid. Arbiter, actually, a little fun fact. Arbiter back in the day on Raid's global launch had 120 base speed, but they nerfed it to, I believe, 110 now. Just, sorry, random fun fact coming to my head here as I'm recording. Arbiter, yeah, 110. It was actually 120 back when I started playing Raid, but yeah, 115, 116 is about as good as it gets for base speed, so definitely a thumbs up there. Crit rate, crit damage are just basic. You don't really need to worry about those when building her either. Base resistance of 40 is good. I don't like the base accuracy of 0. She does need accuracy in her build, so I would have liked if it was at least 40-10 on the resistance accuracy compilation there. Then for the kit, I love the A1. It's an AoE A1 with a decreased speed on it, and it's a big version of decreased speed. And it helps her fill up her turn meter. Now, back when they first announced this champion, I actually took a guess that her base speed would only be like 95 or something, because usually when champions have built-in turn meter fill or built-in extra turn type stuff, they usually punish them with a little bit of a lower base speed to compensate for that. But that's not the case with Mother Cybele, so she can actually crank out some turns here with the great base speed and the kit that's going to help her fill her own turn meter. And worth noting, there was some resources out there, either from Plarium or websites, during the hype phase of kind of announcing this champion, that did show her her A1 scaling with attack. That's actually not the case when she made it to the live game. She is actually showing damage based on HP. Then for the A2, we have got place a revive on death buff and a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns, and we get 3 book cooldowns. I believe she takes 12 books total to max out. But yeah, there's 3 cooldowns on that. We get it from 6 to 3. I think it should have been 5 as a default with 2 cooldowns to 3. But anyway, Revive on Death is solid on a 3-turn cooldown. The problem is Revive on Death sounds a lot better on paper than it actually ends up being in-game. You see champions like Shamrock or something, and you don't get value out of Revive on Death nearly as often as you think you would. But it does pair with something you do get a lot of value out of, which is increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown, and it's the big version. So that is definitely increased defense is a role ally-wide that's not as common as you would think. So all in all, the A2 is actually pretty good as well. The A3 gets a little bit crazy. Hang in there with me. I'll do my best to kind of walk you through this. So, okay, similarly to the A2, we just get 3 cooldowns going straight on the books from taking it from 6 to 3. So she's going to swap HP with an ally, and then based on that ally's HP in relation to her HP is going to affect what happens after that. So if her HP is equal to or higher than the target's after the swap, fill her turn meter by 40% and place an increase speed buff on her. And then we're also going to place a block damage buff on the target ally for 1 turn. If this champion's HP is lower than the target after the swap, it's going to fill the turn meter by 40% and place a 30% increased speed on them for 2 turns and place a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn. So it's basically just going to flip-flop wherever that effect is going. Once you kind of play around with her for a while, it will make sense, but it is very wonky to understand. Even me sitting here playing around with her for a few hours and trying to kind of learn her for the video, yeah, it's still really weird to me. It's definitely a wonky A3, and HP swap is not a super common thing in Raid, but also going to place 2 15% continuous heal buffs on the champion for 2 turns, and I'll show you this in action so you can kind of see what it looks like when you're actually playing. So if I pull that up, okay, here we go. So the first thing you can see is the health swap. She's going to target Rotos. Boom. Fancy little graphic. And now you see the continuous heal goes on her, the block damage on Rotos, and it's based off of how the HP kind of swaps and which target you choose there. But also worth noting that her AI did prioritize the health swap. So when the battle started, had her on auto, and boom, she health swapped with Rotos. Now, this is going to be kind of cool because this is going to pair. I'm going to wait on this, actually. I'm going to wait until we go over the passive until I talk about that, because when we move over to the passive, we've got fully heals the ally with the lowest HP whenever this champion is killed. And then we're going to heal all allies by 20% of their max HP and fill their turn meters by 15% when this champion is revived. So she can work kind of well with a reviver like a Duchess. If I bring up that video again, you'll see at the start of the fight, we get the transfer ability targeting the Rotos, and boom, we swap. And then the corresponding buffs are placed on each champion. Rotos ends up with the block damage. And then the way the fight's going to go, we're going to get targeted pretty heavily because we are a force affinity with her versus like Shazar and Mashalette and stuff. So, you'll see when she dies, the Rotos is going to be hurt, and he's going to get healed because of her death. And I'll slow it down for you when it does happen. But you can see Mother Cybele kind of getting low and being targeted, and then here it comes. Boom. Now watch the Rotos. Look at that. 26,000 heal. Healed up the Rotos to full health because of that passive when she dies. Now, the Duchess is going to come flying in and revive her. And remember, when she gets revived, she's going to do some healing for all allies and some turn meter fill. Boom. You can see the Duchess and the Torment there getting a little bit of heals. And then we get a little bit of turn meter fill as well because of pairing with Duchess and getting the revive that pairs with the passive. When I pulled up the kit here, you can see fully heal the Rotos when she died. And then when she got revived by the Duchess, she did that for all allies, healing based off of their HP and then doing a little bit of turn meter fill. Then we get a speed aura that is actually insanely good. It's one of the best auras in the game. It's ally speed in all battles by 24%. So there's no qualifiers, there's no dungeons, faction wars, there's no magic affinity, there's no nothing. It's just ally speed in all battles by 24%. So there's only a couple champions that have an aura that good in terms of no qualifier speed. Lyssandra's one of them, definitely known for the aura. So it's tied for the best all battle speed aura in the game at 24%. Definitely a really good aura. So that is for sure worth noting when you are grading her as a champion, because we need every team to have a good aura, and Mother Cybele has one of the best ones in the game. And I'll give you my thoughts on her fully as a champion kind of at the end of the video when we wrap everything up. But right now, let's head on over and talk about the building process with the booking, the masteries, and all that stuff. Okay, so there's a few different ways to go. You kind of want to go high HP. You can see here I went with a decent amount of HP and a pretty well-rounded regeneration build. It's not perfect. I was trying to see if I could get her to work full auto on the Night Rev level 21 Faction Wars. It was a nightmare. Didn't go super well. We'll talk about all that stuff here in a little bit. But yeah, so that was kind of the thought process behind that. And I do have on the graphic the optimal sets up in the top right. Now a lot of people are going to see the AoE A1 and talk about how, I should build it with a stun set, kind of like a Sinesha type build. But I don't think so, because like Sinesha has longer cooldowns. So Cybele's got a rotation here of 3/3, and Sinesha also does damage on another ability, whereas Mother Cybele literally never attacks anything unless it's the A1. And because of the low 3/3 cycle, it's not even a 3/4 or like a 3/5 or anything. She's not going to do the A1 as much as you would think. I guess if you don't have her booked, like if you don't get any of these cooldowns, that's a lot of cooldowns. That's 6 cooldowns if you don't have her booked. Then she would make a little bit more sense in a stun set, because she would be doing those wave AoE A1s a little bit more often and get a little bit more value out of the stun set. And you'd have to readjust your masteries to take the coinciding, I think it's called Fearsome Presence, to make sure you take the mastery that makes your stun set 23% instead of 18%. So building her can get a little bit interesting, but I think in general, you're going to want to go with an accuracy banner. This is a pretty good one for her. You're going to want probably speed, accuracy, and HP, mainly, I would guess. But she does have a really good base defense, so you do get pretty good value out of defense percent rolls as well. The amulet, probably HP with your best blend of accuracy rolls to go along with it. On the ring, again, probably HP, but really just a stat stick to get as much defense and HP as you can on the ring slot. Definitely going to go speed, boots on her most of the time. She is a buffer that buffs her own turn meter with the A1. We want her cranking out turns and getting value, so definitely go with speed on almost all builds for her. Then for the chest, I wanted to be able to test her for the video in some arena fights, so I needed to get the accuracy up, but I'm going to say in 90-something% of builds, you're going to want to go with HP or defense, your best defense or HP percent chest on her. And I do probably think it's better to build her in high HP, just the way that her skill works with that swap. But you do get a lot of value out of like a 60% defense roll, because she has a really good base defense. The gloves, you can even go like one of each, like glove and chest, defense and HP, or both HP, both defense, just kind of your best blend. There's lots of different ways you can go with Mother Cybele, but in general, you want HP and defense with speed and accuracy kind of when you're putting her together. She does need the accuracy, remember, like I said, to make sure you're landing those valuable decreased speed buffs from her A1. Then for the booking process, I know we touched on this a little bit. You get a lot of value out of the books on the A1 because it's a base of 25%, and you get another 25% from the books. So insane value, but it costs a lot. It's really unfortunate that they put the 5, 5, 5 as the 3 books there. That should have been 5 and 10 in my opinion. Like, she already cost 12 books. There's nothing wrong with making her cost 9 or 10 by removing a couple. The 3 books of 5% is really rough to get to that buff chance value. So I don't like how the books were structured, but you do technically get a lot of value out of the books on the A1. And then these books as well. It wouldn't hurt to start them at 5 and let them book to 2. And we could have easily got her down to like 9 books and make it a lot more reasonable. But you know how the game works. They got to make them take a few books here to get people to spend those books on getting the value, but she does technically get a lot of value from books. We'll talk about her grade in general and if she's worth it at the end here, but it is what it is, and you do get a lot of value if you do spend books on her. For the masteries, we did talk about this, and it's in the infographic down below if you want to pull it up, but this is kind of a non-clan boss just support build for her, utility support build for her, so don't blindly copy them, but this was what I went with at my first glance of testing her as a utility support. And if you'd like to see Mother Cybele in action, I can show you a Night Rev run here on stage 20. We can talk about her utility and faction wars and all that stuff. So the thing is, you would think she'd be pretty good in faction wars. The AoE A1, decreasing all the speed of the waves, like you see right there, can be super clutch. Remember, it's not a 100% chance. You're not just going to place it all the time. It's not guaranteed to proc, but it is on an A1, so it's going to be pretty consistent. So definitely a good A1. But the problem is, Night Revs is one of the hardest factions to finish because the Mirror Universe boss is really tough, and she's pretty bad on auto versus that boss. Even if you manual her, yeah, you can be a lot more optimal. It's kind of like Miscreated Monster is really good for Night Rev, but can really struggle against the boss. You have to really be careful and manual in that situation. So I don't think she's great in stage 21, but she can be really good up to that point, helping you progress in the Night Rev faction for sure, just because of what she brings to her kit, and especially the A1 and getting some value consistently to decrease the speed of the waves and suppress them. But just be really careful. If you're going to be using her in stage 21, just know that it's going to be tough to pull off because the boss is going to be stealing all those buffs that she's placing, and then you're going to put decreased speed on your own team because it's basically going to be permanent on the boss. So every time the boss does that, you're going to throw that decreased speed onto your team and make your situation tougher. So just a lot to be careful there with if you're considering using her for a lot of value in the Night Rev faction wars. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go over my grades for this champion, and we'll talk about everything now that we have the context of of formulating on an opinion for Mother Cybele. So you can see right down there, we've got the grades from my tier list, and that is subject to change. That's just what I'm thinking today. So that is a living document, and if you are watching this video months in the future, some of those grades may be different. I try to change things based on more testing, more knowledge, and community input, input from other players, all sorts of stuff. So that is subject to change, but that is how I'm feeling right now for her grades. And so the thing is, like, book value, they're worth a lot, but is she like account changing? Clan boss, the increased defense and all that is cool, but the decreased speed and the AoE, A1, that type of stuff isn't really going to bring anything. Arena, I could see in like defensive teams, like getting some value out of arena fights. I showed you how she can be kind of clutch in the tag team arena with the Duchess, but all in all, I don't think she's going to be super impressive there. XP farm, she does have the AoE A1, which is handy for XP farming, but not really a damage dealer, so not going to be a great XP farmer. Faction Wars, that's a tough one because, like I said, she can be really good from stages 1 through 20 for progressing you in night revs, especially if you are a beginner player, but not being super good versus the boss, it really knocks down that value a little bit, so we'll go with an 8. Doom Tower, kind of the same. She can make a lot of sense in suppression teams, decreasing the waves. That speed, that type of stuff is super handy. And the increased defense and the revive on death can be pretty good. Dragon, she doesn't get any value out of the decreased speed, which hurts. But then in the Spider, she does. So she's not going to do damage in terms of AoE A1, but that AoE decreased speed is going to be nice to help you level the playing field in the Spider. And the increased defense can be good, but I don't think she's like S tier there. The Fire Knight, the AoE single hit A1's a little bit rough for the shield, but she does have a little bit of support utility. Revive on death can actually be pretty good in the Ice Golem because the Ice Golem hits super hard with the AoE attack. And there's also some of the dungeon waves in certain levels where you deal with reflect damage and stuff like that on wave 2 and stuff. So Ice Golem, she can definitely be pretty solid there. Minotaur, Void Keep, all that, everything's kind of normal par for the course on the keeps, not like trash or god tier in really any of the keeps. So, okay, thoughts in general. The first thing I want to address, because I am releasing this basically like right when they're going to be launching a fusion from Mother Cybele, I'm recording this when I don't know the context yet of how hard the fusion is going to be. But I do recommend going for the fusion. I hate to recommend, people who follow my channel know this, but I hate to recommend skipping a fusion if you can do it, and then have a situation where a champion gets rebalanced or content comes out. Maybe content comes out where HP swap is insane, like a new Doom Tower boss or something. That's probably not going to happen, but that's just an example. Like, I don't want someone who could do a fusion to end up regretting it because I said, hey, skip the fusion. Do I think she's an amazing champion? No, not really. I originally had graded her as about a B-, and that's kind of where I stay right now. I do think her base stats would bump me up to a little bit more confident B-, but I was thinking C plus B-. Now I'm mostly just thinking B- after I see the base stats and the books and tested her for a little bit. I don't think like account changing god tier. It's great that she has an aura. That's going to be a really good aura for players that are new to the game. An all battle 24% speed aura is insane, and an AoE A1 that decreases speed is going to really give you a lot of speed advantage over the waves for sure, which is going to be really good for new accounts. So the A1 and the aura, really good. The A2, I like. On paper, it's good. The A3 is kind of where they lose me. It's a little bit wonky. It's hard to get consistent value out of this. And just the way that the Night Rev Faction Wars boss also kind of makes everything a little bit weird. But I think this should have something like swap HP with an ally, place all these buffs, and then attack a random enemy with that ally and their default ability. So ally attack is something that's really uncommon in the game. I think it would have been super cool to add that to this ability. It's only one champion, and it's a random ally, so you can't target it. I think if they added some sort of ally attack with the person you're swapping with to give you more incentive to, because it's more of a manual ability. It's more of an ability that you get a lot of value out of playing yourself, and you can kind of choose where these swaps happen. So I think something like that would have been really cool, where you and that person team up to attack a random enemy, and you both use your default abilities. If she had that on this ability, I'd be like, okay, I can see some fun stuff going on here that we could kind of do in certain teams and builds. But with the way that this ability is, it's very kind of hard to just be consistent with, especially on auto, to have everything happen how you want it to. So all in all, yeah, I mean, slightly underwhelmed. There's a few things I would do to definitely change the kit a little bit. But you know, if you're in the market to do the fusion, if you've got the resources, if you can get it done without having to spend a ton and without having to super stress yourself, I do think you should acquire legendaries when you can, because because of the reasons I gave. But do I think it's something you should just go crazy, spending a bunch of money and going nuts? Now that I've tested her, not really. So I can understand the argument if someone decides to not really go crazy for this fusion. I totally get it. But let me know what you think down in the comments. I always enjoy reading your input as well. It helps me do things like the tier list. It helps me formulate more educated opinions, and I enjoy reading through and hearing where you agree and you disagree. So that's gonna do it for this one. As always, have a good rest of your day. Peace.